Alright, let's try that, huh? Still coming off the top of my head! Hey everyone, it's Rochelle with the Inkloft Presents, and today we're talking about Queen Esther! Yay! This is Hadassah, One Night with the King. I just finished it a few days ago, and it's basically had me in raptures ever since. This is actually the second time I've read the book. I read it a couple years ago and loved it, and then I bought it at a used bookstore, and now I read it again, and now I'm talking about it with all of you because I loved it so much. Anyway, it was published in 2004. It was written by Tommy Tenney with Mark Andrew Olson. And if the name sounds familiar to you, it may be because there was a film, One Night with the King, that came out a couple years later. I'd heard of the movie before, but I've never seen it. And, I don't know, it sounded okay, but I just was kind of like, whatever, until I realized that it's based off this book, and now I'm just like, I need to see this movie, I want to see this movie, I'm super excited. I've heard that it was really good, and if it tells this story well, I'm all over it. Anyway, so this book is based off the biblical story of Queen Esther, who, of course, saved her people, the Jews, in Persia. It just makes the story come alive in a way that's really neat, I think, and it's a special sphere of biblical fiction, and this is a really stellar example of biblical fiction. So it's written in a letter form from the older Queen Esther to whose Jewish name is Hadassah, to a younger queen candidate for the position of Queen of Persia. It's bookended by a prologue and epilogue that give this short little glimpse into the life of another Hadassah, a modern-day bride named Hadassah Kesselman. She's given the letter as part of this ancient family tradition, and I actually had to look her up because I was convinced she must be a real figure, but I don't think so, and that kind of disappoints me because it felt really, really real. But anyway, with Hadassah, modern Hadassah, we're plunged into this story, this ancient story that's set in the once great land of Persia. You know, we basically experience the death of Hadassah's parents, the murders of Hadassah's parents with her, and then move with her under the protection of her cousin Mordecai, where she basically grows up in seclusion into this beautiful young woman. And of course, if you know the Bible story, you know that she goes on to become a candidate for the position of Queen of Persia. So this book provides incredible historical background to the story of Esther, which I think is awesome. It's one of the reasons I like biblical fiction, because it's so cool to see it expanded, and this one does it really, really well. You know, Hadassah gives really cool, intricate descriptions of the palace at Susa and of the luxurious treatment that she underwent. You just feel like you're in the place, and it literally, the pages breathe with historical vibrancy, and I'm kind of in love with that phrase since I came up with it, but it fits it so well, and it's awesome. So in this story, we're introduced to several characters who have an integral part in Hadassah's life. Many are mentioned in the biblical story, but all of them are fleshed out a lot more here, and you get a glimpse of real people who had an impact on, you know, this biblical figure of Queen Esther. So first of all, of course, is her cousin Mordecai, who's her protector. He undergoes this dramatic transformation after their families are killed. He was this young, carefree man, and he changes into this serious and often really worried parental figure who cares really deeply about Hadassah, but is always worried about what could happen to her. Rachel is Mordecai's housekeeper, and she acts as kind of a surrogate mother for Hadassah. She disapproves of the way that Mordecai handles his Jewish heritage. He tends to hide it and tells Hadassah to as well, and Rachel thinks that's the wrong path, and so she kind of just quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, disapproves. Jesse, Rachel's grandson, plays a really important role in Hadassah's life as well. She gets her first glimpse of what love looks like from him, and he's a close family friend of hers for the rest of her life. Another really important character is Haggai, who's the eunuch in charge of the queen candidates at the palace. He quickly decides that she's his favorite and takes her under his wing and is an instrumental part of her success at the palace. You know, we're introduced to Haman, of course, who's the villain of this story. He hates Jews, and as he rises through the ranks of Persia, he instills more and more terror in Hadassah, and it all comes to a really important climax, of course. And then finally, what would the story of Esther be without the character of Xerxes, king of Persia? This story did a really good job, I think, of capturing his moods. He was a very mercurial king. He was not a gentle king. He had a lot of temper tantrums, and he was pulled a lot of different ways, but this story manages to be true to that, while at the same time letting you connect with the character, and it does that with all of these characters, and I think that's a really good mark of a good story. So, this is an amazing book. It really is. I just, I loved it. If you couldn't tell, I loved it so much. But anyway, it's researched with the depth of historical fiction, of really good historical fiction, but it reads with the warmth of a memoir, and I think that's really unique. You know, it involves a lot of Hadassah as the writer, contemplating her own emotions and her own reactions, and normally that would just not work in a book, especially historical fiction. It just wouldn't fit, and it would be a little irritating. But somehow it just really works here, and it's different, and it's unique, and it's a memoir, and I think that's cool. But anyway, the story does deal with a lot of complicated and sometimes uncomfortable topics, but it handles all of them really well, I think. It manages to be both really clean and really raw at the same time. It balances the two in really, really well. I wouldn't recommend it for younger readers because it's kind of dark at places, but for readers 16 and up, I totally recommend this book. Read this book. I want you to love it as much as I did. But, so that's it. That's the review for today. Hadassah, One Night with the King. I would love it if you guys would check it out. And if you do, if you have read it, or if you've seen the movie, or if you in the future read it, let me know. I would totally love to hear what you guys thought of it, because I love it when I find out that people love books as much as I do. So, totally. Comment on the video, connect with me elsewhere, let me know. I would love to hear it. So, if you liked this video, give it a like, share, that's all really helpful, and subscribe to the channel so that you can keep up with updates. We've got, I've got future reviews coming, and so I would love for you to, know of that as soon as it happens, and the best way to do that is to subscribe, of course. So, as always, you can find me on Twitter, Pinterest, my blog. I'll put all the links to those in the description. I would love to connect with you any of those places. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to talking with you and sharing more books. So, bye guys!